Welcome to Crime Time. We are going to be talking about the murder of Sydney Loof, Aubrey Trail, and Bailey Boswell. This is a murder that took place about 3 years ago, and we're going to dive into some of the facts behind the case. There's a few different podcasts out there and some really cool true crime shows right now to just kind of follow that I've been following myself, and I'm sure you can find a couple of different folks out there who have some information as well. As always, welcome to Crime Time. My name is Celeste. I always want to acknowledge the traditional land of the first people, the natives, and honor them, the traditional people, past and present, with gratitude for the land that we live on, the water that we drink, and apologize for the absolutely freaking nutty people that I'm going to be talking about. And please like and subscribe. All right, so down below, if you're able to see this video, if you're watching or if you're just listening, I've got a picture of Aubrey Trail. He's a 56-year-old man. I've got a picture of his mugshot there and a surveillance video picture that was caught of him. Now, the mugshot there was taken, it looks like in 2014. So it's not too old, but you can see he's a little overweight and he's an older man. He's not great to look at, okay? But for some reason, he's able to lure young women. And so often, as a woman, I think money, right? I think, what has he got that he's able to lure women? So it's either money, maybe drugs. And this case kind of, when the trial started, something interesting happened. There was something that came out in the case that was vampires were talked about and sex slaves. So we'll get more into that later. So if that's something you want to hear about, stick around. This is a picture here of Bailey Boswell. So she's a young woman. We'll talk more about her past. In this picture, she's obviously using a filter, maybe a Snapchat filter of some sort. Now, this is her Tinder profile. And she was on Tinder looking for females. And she'd met females off of Tinder before. And I'm guessing that's where she was meeting these women who, at some point, were these sex slaves at some point. And if you don't know much about Tinder, this is the site where you swipe left, swipe right if you like somebody, okay? It's also a hookup site. So this is somewhere where you can meet somebody local and go on a date. And, it's generally safe, I would think, but I haven't used it, but I'm not 100% sure. So it definitely was not safe for Sydney Loof, okay? And this case is out of Nebraska. So on November 15th of 2017, Sydney Loof left work for a date with Audrey. Remember, this isn't actually Audrey. This is Bailey Boswell. She'd used this name, Audrey, which is a mix of Bailey and Aubrey, right? And she was going on a date with Sydney Loof. And so Sydney had met this person named Audrey on Tinder, okay? And this wasn't actually the first time they'd met, okay? They went out before and they hit it off. And they went out for coffee and it was a good date. And so she wanted another date. And so this date in November here was the second date. And Sydney did what most of us do. So if you're a woman and you date other women, something that we do is we check and make sure that you're not trying to bring a dude, okay? Because that is something that many women do. They want to try to have a threesome with you. And for women who are looking for women, we do not want a threesome, okay? We just want a date with a girl. We don't. So that's why I say we just want chicks. We don't want dicks, okay? So Sydney asked, hey, there's not going to be any guys. It's just going to be us, right? And Audrey, right, Bailey said, yeah, it's just going to be us. So that was a lie. And Sydney went missing, okay? We know that. So we know that there were some odd behaviors of Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Trail following that. that kind of made them into suspects. We know that Sydney told people she was going on a date, that she had hit it off with somebody, with a girl, and she showed them a picture of the girl on Tinder and said, "Hey, look at this girl, this chick I met." Yeah, and people said, "Oh, you sure she's not trying to?" Because other girls know. Trust me, I know that girls do that. They try to make you have a threesome with their dude. It's well known. So if there's any chicks out there right now who've ever tried to meet another chick, they know. So I've got some videos for you to watch too of these kind of idiots, and some things that they did that were kind of dumb prior to the date, just to show you. One thing that people do, and this is just red flags, okay? So if you work at Walmart, Safeway, Menards, which is where Sydney Loof worked, which is a hardware store, I believe, somebody comes in ever and they buy, trash bags, duct tape, bleach, rope, a shovel, uh, a ski mask, an ice pick, things like that, and you're checking them out, call the police after they leave, okay? Because that is a flag. All right, those are red flags. You are within your rights to be worried, okay? Because that's not normal. Those are kill kits, okay? And so you can imagine what I'm getting at with this, right? What Aubrey Trail and Bailey Boswell did, right? But of course they're innocent. Of course they didn't plan this, right? No, no, no. This wasn't planned. No, no. Okay, here we go. I also want to remind you that the landlord and others said they smelled bleach in their apartment building, and it smelled very strongly of bleach, okay? So the couple went after the murder, or after she's missing, okay, she's missing. And people say, "Hey, I know that she went on this date with this person named Audrey." And they're contacting Audrey on Tinder. And they are able to bing it, how the police can do all kind of stuff with cell phones. They bing it back to uh, Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Trail. They go on Facebook Live and they do this like idiots.
Good morning, Lincoln and Omaha and probably several other places. This is Aubrey Trail and this is Bailey Boswell. I guess y'all also know her as Audrey. But we've spent the last few days watching ourselves being slammed and crucified in the newspapers and the news and everything else, so we thought it was time we had our say. We're not trying to defend anything. We're not trying to make you believe anything. We just feel we should get to say our side since everyone else gets to say theirs. Unlike the Lincoln Police Department and Saline County Police Department and all those folks, everything we're going to tell you, you're going to be able to pick up the phone or have a newspaper pick up the phone and very easily verify it. I am going to talk for a minute, then Bailey here is going to tell you about her 2 dates with Sydney, and we'll go from there. The Lincoln Police Department apparently wants everyone to believe that we're hiding, that we haven't talked to them, that we're avoiding them. Actually, we've spoken to the Lincoln Police Department a couple of times. We also, through my attorney, Doug Mertz in Falls City, Nebraska, please verify, we both wrote long statements and sent to the Lincoln Police Department telling them everything we know. We also, the day before Thanksgiving, which would be the 22nd, we repeatedly called the Lincoln Police Department when they were trying to contact us. After about 10 phone calls, please have a newspaper, ask for they record everything. We were told to quit blowing up their phone, even though we told them, hey, do you understand that we're the people you're looking for? They said, you've called here several times. We will get back to you when we can. So,
Hi, good morning. I'm Bailey, Audrey on Tinder, and a few other names because I have warrants, but this really isn't about me. This is about Sydney, and I'm just kind of want to tell you what I've already told the Lincoln police more than one time. I met her on a Tuesday. We drove around Lincoln, smoked weed, had a great time. We hit it off. I dropped her off at home, picked her up the next night at her house. We drove around, smoked weed again, made our way to my house where we smoked wax and shatter, and I gave her a quarter ounce of some really good weed. I went to take her home, and she asked me to drop her off at a friend's house, so I did so. I gave her my number. We were planning to go to the casino that weekend. I haven't heard from her since. I really don't even know what else to say. I've been seeing all this stuff on the news presses and the magazines and the news, and I guess I just want the family to know that I'm truly sorry and I didn't have anything to do with this, and I hope that Sydney is found very soon. She is a sweet, amazing girl. I don't know. Babe, do you have anything else to say?
I hope also that Sydney's found soon. We wish the family the best. We're sorry you're going through this. And as far as all this stuff that the police department is putting in the papers, putting on the news, what they're feeding to the media, what they want the media to know, there's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing she can do about that because the police department is going to do what suits them best. Yeah, I know that's coming from a criminal, so you'll believe what you will as far as the police department is concerned. But as far as I'm concerned, what they're chasing us around like dogs, I wish the family the best. I mean, no disrespect to anyone. I wish Sydney the best. But as far as the police department, fuck you.
Yeah.
Good morning, Lincoln.
So that was their message. So we know they bought all those items. If you were the family and you know that these people bought duct tape and bought kill kits, and this was their message, I think you'd be a little upset as well. So literally, the day after she went with this Aubrey, who's got all these names because she's got warrants, she was reported missing. Now, as a mother, I'd be angry. And I would want that Aubrey, she should be on the run because you do not want that mother to find you, right? You do not want that mother to find you. 3 weeks later, her dismembered remains were found 60 miles from where they went on their date. Sydney's body was discovered mutilated. Mutilated. And there's a picture there of Sydney Loof and a picture of her body parts discovered. Her body was found December 4th after 3 weeks of searching. The family of Sydney Loof is confirming reports, this is from a news article, is confirming reports that her body has been found. They posted on the Finding Cindy Loof Facebook page. It's with heavy hearts that we share this most recent update with you all. Please continue to pray for Sydney and our entire family. May God grant eternal rest unto thee. We love you, Sydney. Mhm. Miss Loof's remains, which were cut up into 14 parts, were found in trash bags alongside sex toys. Yes, sex toys, a dog leash, and a plastic sauna suit. Didn't see him buying that at Home Depot. So he had that, and she had that. During the trial, oh, and we're going to read a little of this, so I want you to be prepared. During the trial, witnesses who remained anonymous, not for long, referred to Trail as the vampire leader of a witch cult. They also pointed out that Trail had boasted about his actions, telling officers that Boswell had consumed Miss Loof's blood. It was also stated during the legal proceedings that he had bought supplies to commit and cover the crime. Well, we know this because we saw that, right? In court, right, he also stabbed himself in the neck and screamed out, "Bailey is innocent, and I curse you all." He was sentenced to death. But the chances he's executed are slim because of the state of Nebraska and the drugs there being hard to get, okay? We're going to go into who Bailey is and a little more about who he is. But first, what I want to do is something very unique. I have access to some trial papers that I want to read to you. Now, this may feel boring, but this is, just go with me here on this. We're going to read this. This is what they said at trial, okay? Let's do this together, shall we? Yes. Let's do it. Without objection, Hills testified that she met Boswell through an online dating app in July 2017, and that she met Trail through Boswell. Boswell used an alias. What, like Audrey? Trail told Hills that he could help her get revenge on an abusive stepfather. He invited Hills to become one of 12 other women he claimed were associated with him, whom he referred to intermittently as his girls and witches. Trail showed Hills nude photographs of the alleged witches, but she never met any of them. Boswell was the queen witch. Trail claimed to be a vampire. In August 2017, Hills was introduced to Galyakova as a person who Trail said might become one of us, as a watcher. Trail told Hills that she could leave his coven at any point until she took her first soul, which she understood meant to kill someone and take their last breath. Hills believed Trail. She continued to associate with Trail and Boswell. She was sexually involved with both. Their sexual activities involved erotic asphyxiation. Hills had to follow various rules that Trail set for her behavior, such as having to check in every 3 hours while away from the Wilbur apartment, remaining unclothed while in the apartment, and having to ask permission to do anything, even to use the restroom or to get a drink of water. Kind of reminds me of R. Kelly. If she did not follow these rules or otherwise misbehave, she was physically punished by being hit, whipped, or choked. Trail paid her an allowance. Hills also assisted in selling antiques. Hills described a process she observed a few times where Boswell would start talking to women she met through a dating app and then hand off the communication with that woman to Trail. If the woman wanted to talk on the phone, Trail would give the phone to Boswell after giving her a summary of a prior text communications. Hills stated that in August 2017, while at a grocery store, Boswell briefly met with a woman she had been communicating with in that manner. Boswell directed the woman to go speak with Trail. Trail and the woman spoke for a while before Trail, Boswell, and Hills left the store. Hills testified that Trail asked her afterward if she wanted that woman to be her first kill. While Hills responded in the affirmative, she was told a couple of weeks later that the woman had traveled to California to visit family. Trail told Hills they would either save her for another time or find someone else. Trail, Boswell, Hills, and Galyakova went on a vacation together that August. Shortly thereafter, Trail stated that he wanted to kill Galyakova. Trail explained Galyakova was too nice and didn't have the evil in her. A plan was discussed to do so, but never executed. Trail threatened Hills that he would kill her family if she ever disclosed his plans. Hills stated that Trail often spoke of torturing and killing someone and said that causing pain to someone would make the killer more powerful. Trail was aroused by the idea of watching her and Boswell torture someone. He told Hills he wanted the idea of torturing someone to be arousing for her and Boswell too. Trail asked Hills to think about ways she would torture her victims, or her victim. In September 2017, Hills told Boswell she wanted out. Among other reasons, she did not want to kill Galyakova. Hills moved to another town and had only sporadic contact with Trail and Boswell thereafter. During a break in Hills' testimony, Hills resumed her testimony. She stated that Trail once showed her Boswell's killing bag. He had pulled out a hammer, some pliers, and a sauna suit from the bag and showed them to her. Trill told Hills she would get her own killing bag when it was time. Trill said the sauna suit was so that they would not get blood on themselves. Galyakova. Galyakova testified at trial that in the late summer of 2017 she met Boswell through a dating app. Boswell initially used an alias, maybe like Audrey. She was later introduced to Trail by Boswell, who explained they were in an open relationship. She eventually entered into a relationship with Trail and Boswell that was somewhat similar to Hill's, but Boswell was in charge of punishing her. Also, erotic asphyxiation was apparently not involved. Galyakova soon told them she was not comfortable with some of the rules, after which she no longer had to follow them. Galyakova did household chores and assisted in the antique enterprise. Galyakova testified that she liked the idea of someone taking care of her. Trill spoke to Galyakova about having a coven and special powers, but she did not believe him. Galyakova testified that Trill and Boswell eventually started talking to her about whether she would be willing to torture and kill someone. They told her they wanted to make videos of people being tortured, which they could sell. Trail and Boswell told Galyakova that they could make 1 million, split it, and go their separate ways. They sometimes also discussed murdering someone in a certain way, like for sacrifices or something. Trail and Boswell assured Galyakova that their victim would be someone who had done bad things. Galyakova said she was not comfortable hurting anyone, and she left the group in October. Brandel. Brandel testified at trial that she met Boswell through a dating app in October 2017. Boswell had used an alias, like Audrey. Brandel entered into a relationship with Boswell similar to the others, except she was more focused on having a romantic relationship with Boswell and did not want anything from Trail. She understood that she was entering into a dominant, submissive relationship and that Trail was part of a package deal, but testified that there was no mention of choking. She had not been in a dominant, submissive relationship before, but she wanted to be with Boswell and decided to give it a shot. She did not get directly involved in their antique enterprise. Brandel said there was some discussion of witches. Trill told her that she was Boswell's familiar and that they had known each other in past lives. Trill also mentioned having a coven of witches that she would meet someday. Trill told Brandel she could ask for one wish, but she would have to pay the price. Brandel explained that she was skeptical and did not pursue that line of discussion. She was never told what the price would be. On November 13th, 2017, Boswell complained about another woman she claimed was stalking her and asked Brandel if she would ever kill for her. During intercourse, while Trail watched, Boswell asked Brandel if there was anyone she wanted to kill. Boswell also asked Brandel to describe ways someone could torture someone else. When the intercourse became uncomfortable and Brandel wanted to stop, Trill told her that it would stop if Brandel told Boswell what she wanted to hear. Brandel testified that she tried to describe torture techniques from the Renaissance era that she recalled learning in school. Brandel suffered an asthma attack and went back to her home in Omaha, Nebraska. On the morning of November 15th, 2017, while Boswell was in the hardware store, Boswell texted Brandel that she would be busy for the next couple of days. Brandel testified that she did not see Trail or Boswell again until the afternoon of November 17th, 2017. Brandel described that on November 17th, Trail and Boswell seemed quieter and more tense than usual. Trail and Boswell picked Brandel up and then went to a hotel casino. Boswell showed Brandel a picture of a young woman whom she identified as her stalker and asked Brandel to participate in her murder. Brandel initially declined, but she accepted the proposition after Trail made various threatening statements. After participating in arrangements to leave Boswell's car in a store parking lot and taking a cab back to the hotel with the idea that they would be using Brandel's car for the supposed murder they were planning, Trail told Brandel she did not have to worry about participating anymore because she had already proved her loyalty. Trail and Boswell then convinced Brandel to drive them across Nebraska for a supposed drug deal. Brandel testified that Trail and Boswell continued to seem tense and appeared to have quiet arguments. Brandel testified that eventually either Trail or Boswell suggested they were going to find someone to torture and kill as a way to make money. On November 21st, 2017, during intercourse at a hotel room, Boswell again asked Brandel to talk about how people could be tortured. Brandel talked about the same historical torture stuff she had the previous time, and Boswell talked about dismembering people. Yes, she's Boswell. Doesn't this sound like you guys a great person? On November 22nd, 2017, Trail and Boswell had Brandel drive them to Kearney, Nebraska. Trail and Boswell explained they intended to find as a victim an exchange student who was still around during the Thanksgiving holiday. Their thinking, Brandel explained, was that such a victim would be unlikely to be missed. The idea was that Boswell and Brandel would torture and murder them while Trail watched. Brandel stated she tried to stay calm and cooperative because she believed that her family would be hurt if she did not. When a law enforcement officer left a voicemail on Brandel's phone and Trail was informed of the fact that they all left Kearney without any further action toward attempting to identify a potential murder victim, at that point, Trail and Boswell told Brown that a young woman was missing and that Boswell was being falsely blamed because she was the last person seen with the woman. Boswell cried and insisted she did not hurt the missing woman. Trail and Boswell eventually dropped Brandel off at a hotel close to her home after Brandel learned from law enforcement that her mother had filed a missing person report on her. Brandel's mother also informed her that her father was gravely ill. Brandel told Trail and Boswell she wanted to return home. She probably almost got killed. You know that? I'm just saying. Trail's testimony. Trail testified in his own defense. He stated at the outset that he did not contest 85% of the prosecution's case. Yep, no. He said that in Trail and Boswell's apartment, he and the woman he was involved with could talk about anything, from the mildest to the wildest. And what you were is what you were. He and Boswell were not going to tell anyone they were wrong about anything, he acknowledged. There was a lot of talk in our house about killing people, torturing people. Trail claimed these were just fantasies. We just liked talking about fucking and killing, you know. Trail admitted that much, albeit not all of his inspiration in his discussion of these fantasies came from a book of fiction about witchcraft, where the characters torture people for power. He did not believe this was true, but thought the women were interested in the discussions. Ugh. Other discussions about reincarnation and spiritual witches and vampires reflected his personal beliefs. Trail claimed that he met Sydney in the spring of 2017 while she was working at the hardware store, and that Boswell met her about a week later. Trail described that Sydney and Boswell developed a romantic relationship, and that Sydney was paid for participation in Trail's illegal money-making schemes. Sydney ended her arrangement with Trail in 2017. Trail testified in 2017, Boswell asked Trail if she could reach out to Sydney through the dating app she was on. Sydney was upset when Boswell picked her up for their first date, and Sydney realized who her date was. But Boswell convinced Sydney to consider coming back and being with us, and they arranged a second date. Trail described the items purchased on the 15th as intended for the repair and cleaning of antiques. Oh, yeah, right. According to Trail, Sydney went to the Wilbur apartment on the evening of November 15th to discuss the possibility of rejoining the group. During that conversation, Trail asked Sydney to either answer or turn off her phone. So Sydney turned off the phone. Trail testified that Sydney eventually agreed to experiment that night with erotic asphyxiation, wherein Trail would hold a cord connected to a ligature while Sydney and Boswell engaged in sexual intercourse. And during these activities, Sydney appeared to have a seizure, stopped breathing, and died. Trail said he did not intend to kill Sydney. He explained that doing so would be counterproductive because he used people for sex and to make money. Ugh. Trail testified he did not call an ambulance because he had an extensive criminal history and had illegal drugs and stolen goods in his apartment. He dismembered Sydney's body as a means of fitting it into a trunk to remove it from their apartment without being noticed. He denied removing Sydney's internal organs. He dumped the trash bags containing Sydney's body in the location where they were eventually discovered by law enforcement. Trail described fleeing with Brandel's assistance, claiming that they looked for an exchange student as a potential victim, was simply part of a fantasy they never intended to act upon. The prior discussion with Hills about killing the woman he met at a store was just a fantasy. In fact, Trail claimed he told Hills the woman had moved to California because a crazy bitch wanted to kill her. He said he was afraid she would actually do it and wanted to prevent that from happening. The trial lasted approximately 3 weeks. On the third day, around 10:30, after Whitney was sworn in, but before she testified, Trail seated at the counsel table yelled, Bodwell is innocent, and I curse you all. Immediately thereafter, Trill made a couple of slashing gestures at his neck. Some blood was visible. Trill had secreted a razor blade into the courtroom and had used it to inflict wounds to his neck. So that we've already kind of talked about. That was that courtroom disruption. So these may be things you have not heard about because people have said that some of these records are sealed, but your girl got them. Oh yeah, your girl be spilling the tea. Celeste got the tea. So, can you believe it? That ugly dude. I'm talking fugly. Okay, that's Sugar Daddy. Yeah, he's got all the girls. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so yeah. So now you know a little more than you did before, if you didn't know all that. So let's learn a little bit more about Bailey, Miss Alias, Miss getting all these people for this coven. Okay. Who is this person who is bringing all these people in to this sick, twisted scheme? Okay. Let's see. So Bailey Boswell was born in Iowa. You know, they're all kind of mid, panhandle kind of people. Bailey's dad was murdered, though that really didn't stop Bailey. Bailey excelled in school. So Bailey isn't one of those people who can say, blame it on my upbringing. No, Bailey did well in school. Bailey did well in school. Being from Iowa, did well. Did well in sports, too. Bailey was a good student in school. However, Bailey got sucked into drugs. Okay? Bailey was sucked into drugs. That's what happened with Bailey. Bailey got sucked into hardcore drugs. Yes. And often with women, when they're sucked into hardcore drugs, there's an easy way that a woman can make money when they're, looking for hardcore drugs and they're young, and it's selling themselves. And I think when you look at this guy and you look at Bailey, that may have been some of what happened. But when Bailey was a little younger, something Bailey did do was Bailey had a child too. And Bailey lost custody of her child as well. All right. And Bailey got involved in crimes. And Bailey was actually in like the newspaper once in her hometown for a crime. I can't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head, but Bailey's not a stranger to Backpage either. I think that was the crime. She was in Backpage. And Bailey's not a stranger to advertising on sites like Tinder for what Bailey wants either. Prostitution and things like that. Okay. And Bailey was looking for a sugar daddy as well. That was one of the things Bailey had posted on Backpage, looking for a sugar daddy. And I think Bailey may have found somebody in this Aubrey trail, you know. So who is he, right? Who is Aubrey? Aubrey really didn't have much of a chance at all, probably coming up, but I've never been one of those people to say blame it on everything on your parents and your upbringing, because many people come from hard homes and they make a wonderful life and they, against all odds, excel. But Aubrey had difficult and abusive upbringing, was raised by his grandparents, and his parents eventually came back and tried to get him and then abused him again. And then, it was just a cycle for Aubrey, really. So that was something that happened. And he would go in and out of jail for fraud over and over. Career criminal is who Aubrey is, a career thief, try to steal high-end check fraud, things like that. So when it comes to the money that Aubrey would get, it would be from high-end crimes often. I don't want to say high-end, maybe because, not very high-end, but he would steal things. Yeah. So things like that. And back to that poverty. I think that because he came from poverty, he tried to steal things worth money. So things like antiques, right? And so that's why he would go to try to find antiques, try to find coins, things like that. Definitely spent time in juvenile, spent time in jail, time in prisons and systems, So those systems are not strangers to somebody like Aubrey. And I wonder about somebody with this kind of a background, right? With this sex and murder and wanting to torture and that psycho, sadism thought process. How many people maybe has he hurt? Is this maybe his first victim? And I definitely feel like our our gal Sydney Loof probably has saved some lives. So who is our angel that I do believe saved some lives and is saving lives now? Because I do believe some of those people who testified uh, in that trial would have been victims in the next few years, right? They would have been victims, or anybody else on Tinder who got in touch with a person who has an alias, and then next thing you know, they're meeting with this person. So Sydney was born beautiful and sweet, uh, and Sydney was skilled also in school and did well and came from a wonderful family, as you can see, and had a beautiful smile. And something that kind of happened with Sydney when she was young is some of you have ever been in school and they do the testing in school. When I was young, they did it in PE. I don't know if they do it still in school, but maybe I'm aging myself. But in school, they would test for scoliosis. And Sydney got diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine. And it caused some spine issues. And I think it gave her some self esteem issues, probably. And that's just a guess. And so she suffered from some depression, some anxiety, some mental health. And she had some depression. And it sounds like a few days before she went on this date, she had went to go get more meds and was wanting to get better and work on her depression. And she was working on herself. And I can't, for her going on a date with Bailey, it sounds like she was at least exploring dating women. I don't know if she was full lesbian or if she was bi or what, but it sounds like she was open to she was dating, at least. So, she was, getting out and trying to live her life and be happy, which is important when you have depression. It's important to get out and see other people. Um, so she was doing what she could for herself. She was working hard. She had a job at Menards. People cared about her enough that the day that she went missing, the next day they called because she was responsible like that. They knew she wouldn't not show for work. That means something. When the first day that you don't go to work, somebody knows you're missing, that means that you're responsible. Okay. So she was responsible, is what that means. And it means people care. So people cared and loved Sydney. So I like to think that, we remember the woman, the warrior, and that she saved lives. And we thank you for what you did to save people. And we remember you and we honor you. And yeah, we do know that they're both in jail now and that he has got a death sentence. She has got a life sentence. And I always like to, especially on something like this, do you think that he killed others? I do think that he killed other people. He came forward and admitted that he did it, as you saw there when he testified. She never came forward and admitted it. She denied it the whole time. She denied being a part of it. And as you saw, he even did the whole slit his throat thing. She's innocent. Bailey's innocent, me doing my voice for him. But I absolutely believe that she is guilty. She lured the women and actively lured many women to meet with him and her for twisted reasons. And now that you've heard some of what they were doing behind closed doors and what she was doing when she would be having sex with women and what she would be saying, like, tell me how you would hurt someone and how you might torture someone while she's engaging in intercourse with a woman while he's watching, that lets you know that she is getting off on that, not just him, right? So I absolutely believe that she is just as guilty as him. And that women, can be just as sneaky as men. And I also wonder, what was that about him stabbing himself in the neck? It's obvious that he didn't mind choking himself, so self pain, self mutilation isn't a big deal for him. So him doing that isn't much for somebody who, like myself, who's in mental health. People cut themselves, people do self harm. So that's just another form of self harm to me anyway. So I really want everybody to take care and stay safe out there. And if there's a true crime story that you want to hear about, or if you just have any comments or anything, just let me know. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and definitely like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thanks.